Inklings, Octolings, the Splatlands. Where did they come from? This is something that has always been theorized in the Splatoon fandom, but never truly answered. Just a lot of guesses and seldom answers in the Splatoon games. We had stuff about the Professor, we had stuff about Judd, but we never had the true answer we were looking for. What happened to all the other humans? What happened to planet Earth? Why are the Inklings and Octolings roaming about? And really, how did they come to be? How did squids evolve into Inklings? And so, my name is troyfu, and welcome to my Splatoon 3 Lore and Theory video. So in this video, spoiler warning to start it off, we're going to be talking about the end game, what is going to be in the future of Splatoon, who the potential bad guys for Splatoon 4 are going to be, and we're going to be discussing the logbook, the origins of Inklings and Octolings and the Splatlands, as well as a bunch of extra bonus content. But before I get into it, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, help me out, don't forget to like, share the video, and if you like game theory videos, Mario Kaizo levels, or, walkthroughs and game explanation videos, please subscribe, help me out, and thank you and enjoy the video. So I'm going to start with the most important logbook of them all, and that is logbook 7, which is obtained after you complete, every single thing in the game and the secret kettle. Logbook 7 has to do with everyone's favorite and my favorite, Mr. Grizz, the anomaly, number 03. So a little bit of logbook spoilers before I fully go into Mr. Grizz's background is that, 1, Earth has been going on after about 5 to 10,000 years since Mr. Grizz has been on Earth when humans and mammals dominated. 2, Orca was built in Alterna from the last surviving human race. And 3, squids are the most important creature into recreating the Earth that Mr. Grizz and mammals need. They produce something called liquid crystals, which is why Mr. Grizz needs Captain Cuttlefish, and he says, "You will suffice, you're the only one I need." So Logbook 7 talks about a spaceship that had to leave Earth due to the events in Logbook 1, which will be discussed a little bit later on. And that spaceship, it had every species of Earth in it in a cold sleep, and it was looking for another new, Earth-like planet that they all can survive on. However, after it reached the end of the solar system, it ran into some debris, and the navigation system broke. The crew decided to just turn the ship around and go back. However, there was 2 problems. 1, there's no navigation system, and 2, there wasn't enough fuel to head back to Earth. So with that, the ship, the Arc Polaris, drifted throughout space aimlessly for 10,000 years. After eons had passed, luckily, the Arc Polaris got pulled into, Earth's gravity core, and re-entry was not kind to its inhabitants. In fact, upon re-entry, everyone on the Arc Polaris died except for Bear number 3. He was an experimental subject, and he had retained consciousness within his cold hibernation the whole time. So for 12,000 years, he was dreaming, he was plotting. And once he fully awakened, he came to a terrible realization. The Earth he knew, it was gone. It was dominated by sea creatures, and not a single mammal to be found. This he didn't like. As he was searching and searching for, any other mammal, he actually rebuilt the navigational system from the wreckage of the Arc Polaris, and he discovered this place called Alterna. It was a wasteland, of course, but there were a few liquid crystals that had once covered the walls, and with knowledge built from all those years of traveling and dreaming, he repaired Alterna's facilities, and he began researching what these crystals were. So finally, after all the research and rebuilding Alterna, which gave him access to Orca and having all these other logs and, humanity's past on Earth roughly 7,000 years ago, he mixed these liquid crystals with his fur, and he created an entirely new substance. He realized he can make any creature into a mammal. He dubbed this new thing Fuzzy Ooze, which is hilarious, but remember, he needed something. He needed golden eggs. And how would he get these golden eggs? He needed thousands upon thousands. And so he decided to, name something. He created Grizzco Industries, and he went under their moniker Mr. Grizz. He would pay handsomely for them, and you, as a sucker in Splatoon 2, would gladly do the job for him. Now armed with Grizzco Industries, his diabolical plot, and the rocket from Alterna, he was ready to create a, a nuclear fuzzy ooze bomb. Now, of course, we can discuss the other logbooks that were all very interesting. They talk about the origins of Inklings and basically how humanity became extinct. And it's very interesting. So logbook 1 talks about how technology became such an advancement that wars were fought over it. And because of these wars constantly be going on, well, natural disasters intensified, the world flooded, and humans were expected to be extinct at that time in 2022, our time. Funnily enough, in the logbook, it gives us 42,791 to 1 odds to survive, and we do. We actually survive even though the Earth flooded, well, majority of it flooded, and life on the top of Earth becomes a complete wasteland. But thanks to a cataclysmic volcanic eruption, a giant cavern appears, and that's where the rest of remaining humans hide and find shelter. Logbook 2 just talks about how the humans that survived in the shelter named scientists to be the leaders of this, and the scientists looked for one single thing: to find a ecosystem where they can survive in this cavern. And as they're working to build the cavern up, they decide to call the cavern Alterna. So the entire game is based where the final humans lived after all these wars. Your story mode is you trekking the last lands of the humans. The other major thing that happens in logbook 2 is it talks about Orca, which is an omniscient recording computer of Alterna. Basically, the scientists use this to not only help themselves create a better society, but to document everything, use knowledge of not only their past, but for their future generations. Logbook 3 is probably the most important logbook that's not the secret one, as it talks about a single scientist finding something called a liquid crystal. How did he find these liquid crystals? Well, you guessed it. They come from a living organism, aka squids. And by taking the bodily fluids of these squids, they're able to create these crystals that have basically special powers. They can output imagery that matches the viewer's innermost thoughts. Whatever you desire, it can create. And this is why there's a sky blue, nice day in Alterna. It's not a dark cavern. It was able to absorb their collective desire to see Earth again. So, logbook 4 talks about, well, it's a very dark logbook, as it talks about the fall of the last humans. Basically, the scientists became elder and they elected new officials, and these new officials were meant to lead the advanced civilization of Alterna. They had the same unquenchable thirst for innovation. These leaders were hand-chosen, and well, they were born and raised in Alterna. They were the first set of humans, or they were officially the humans that have never been born on Earth. They've only been in Alterna all their lives. And because of this, they were very restless as well. They built that space station. They believed they deserved to see what was on the Earth. The elders, who knew what awaited outside though, gave them warnings. However, these young scientists didn't care. With that, they constructed a massive rocket. And that rocket led to the end of humanity. As the rocket shot up, with its boosters, it caused a chain reaction and it overloaded the cavern's liquid crystals. Because of this, without warning, the stone walls of the cavern began to shatter. Crystals fell into the water. Debris started, well, raining down upon humanity. Alterna, the last civilization of once prosperous humanity, was no more, and those few who escaped the carnage would soon follow it with death. Logbook 5 talks about the, well, evolution, Darwinism of Inklings. Basically, all the debris that fell through, remember, it's made of liquid crystal, and there is seawater and marine life in Alterna, while majority of them, of course, live on Earth, as it is nearly 70 to 80% flooded. These crystals started falling in to the ocean, and well, the marine biolife that was in there repeatedly absorbed these crystals, and those crystals also absorbed and reflected humanity's wishes over the years. Little by little, squids, octopuses, and all of them took that into their body, and well, they began to feel something fresh. This was humanity's desire to return to Earth, and because of that impulse, they started to emerge from Alterna, and like humans, they strove for the surface. They got out of Alterna, and they finally set their sights on the surface world. Logbook 6, the final logbook you can get without doing any of the secrets, talks about, well, the evolution of Inklings and their society. Basically, what happens is, as they refer the lands above now as the Splatlands, they also call the Alterna as the land of fresh beginnings. Here, marine life started to evolve. And as they were going upon Earth, more and more marine life creatures started to evolve as well. However, squids and octopuses soon turn out to be the apex series, as they distinguish themselves via intelligence and fresh vibes. But Orca says, flash forward 5,000 years later, a peculiar individual was born, and this one squid, well, he rose to fame in the Splatlands due to some unique characteristics. This individual was a prophet. He was the progenitor of modern day Inkling, and with that, he taught them civilization upon the cephalopodization. Not a real word, obviously, because they're cephalopods. But basically, this one squid evolved even further, and he became the one who laid the groundwork for everybody. That's how we got to our current land. 5,000 years later, the Splatlands of Splatoon that we play is after this logbook. So I wanted to talk about the Sunken Scrolls with me in person, because there's so much to go into this as well. There's not all 24 pages aren't as relevant, but I think the interesting thing is on the first page you could see that, well, that's Earth, that's Italy, that's Europe. I mean, we already know we're on Earth, but these are confirmed lands, and it's interesting to know that the Inklings, Octolings, and all the creatures absorbed some of the culture from each area they went to. The text is explaining how they prepare the same food but in completely different ways. And it's just really interesting to see that Italy, that Europe part has survived, as well as like the China, India, Asia side, where there's no confirmation on any other parts of Earth, as it is mostly flooded. So this could be the only land that's left, but it's still a lot of land. Page 2 is also really interesting because it talks about like the first Inklings. It says how they almost lost all the land, how it was almost washed away. And it's also in an Asian art style, a Japanese art style. It's just really funny to see that they kind of took that art, but it's also very interesting to see that, you know, the first Inklings, this is what they saw as they emerged from Alterna, and why they have these festivals, or why they have a festival. Now, another important page is here. The origins of Rumbles actually came from manga, which is very funny. You know, it's not a JoJo reference, but it's got a very old school manga, school uniform with the guy with the hair. It's just interesting that Rumbles came from Japanese manga. Another interesting thing is not the president talking about turf wars. How they talk about salmonoids, they return to the ocean. There's a lot of creature evolution pages. I believe there's one other one we're going to see later on about crustaceans. But yeah, it'll talk about these kind of things where creatures still, you know, they long for their innate desires. Now, this one's super cool for Shiver fans, as I think these are called Hanafora cards from what I can recall. And well, it looks like Shiver based her design and appearance on these cards. She has the shark, who's her master. She's got the same blue hair. In fact, this card could be based on her or vice versa. It's just a very interesting thing to see. Now, the next page, I believe, with the crustaceans. If I could read, if anybody knows how to translate Inkling writings or Splatoon's like special text, there's a lot of untapped potential here. Here they talk about crustaceans, why they grew a lot more in the Splatlands versus other areas you go to. But here's another interesting thing. They have the internet, which is kind of cool. I mean, maybe it was always around, but they have their own type of like Instagram. They have their own shop pages and all that. And well, you know, internet is an access to a lot of knowledge. And we already know that the Inklings are, and Octolings are, you know, smart people. They also have labor unions, alright? See here, they got the promotion to Captain of Pay Grade 33. So it's funny to see how new Squidbeak has to follow, like, government kind of laws. But, yeah. I guess he went back to being a captain, so he's not ex-cap anymore. And this is the most important lore page of all of them, page 21. This talks about, this is a squid. A dried out remains of a squid. So here it goes. Seems there are instructions on how to mummify an inkling. Maybe in olden times, inklings thought if they preserved their bodies after death, they could be revived someday. But that's, well, there's no way this is a real one stuck here, right? No, of course it isn't, right? But we know that this is a squid from our time on Earth, that they squeezed out the juices and were able to make that liquid crystal, which is what powers all of Alterna. It's just crazy to see. And this is this is an Inkling's thoughts of writing up what this is. It's just it's crazy. It's crazy. Anybody who is looking for information on Splatoon 2 girls, there you go, off the hook. And of course, Judd. And now the most important page, the other question going to be answered. Who's the DLC bad guys or the future bad guys in 4? Right here could be the answer. These guys scratched out. They're clearly from here. Might be in Splatoon 3 DLC. The names: Nishio Aranda, alias. Poison Rug, alias. Ranchi Yu, alias. They were in these areas in the game. Their subject name, Marigold. They were looking for something. That's why they were scattered all around. But we don't know what their true name is, what their true purpose is. My guess, these guys are DLC bad guys, you know, or maybe some sort of type of expansion going on. Who knows? Because the only reason why I'm saying they're current game bad guys is because they look like Inklings and Octolings. You know, they don't remind me of Mr. Grizz. Mr. Grizz and the humans out there on the Ark, I assume, are going to be for a later kind of thing. I think we're going to space, or I think we're going to fight the other humans. I think their desire to come back home, since they can't find a new Earth, and they believe they deserve to keep Earth, I think that'll will us out there into some type of a Splatoon war. But it also has to, you know, stay kind of that fun Splatoon way. It's very interesting to see what's going on here. But, yeah. That's, Splatoon 3 decided to give a bountiful bunch of lore. I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen at this point. They could go in any direction. However, they set it up openly enough where Splatoon could continue its story mode and its missions on with more and more bad guys. And with that, guys, that's the end of the video. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know any theories you guys got, anything maybe I got wrong, maybe something I didn't notice that you guys did. I would love to hear it. Again, if anybody could translate any Splatoon writing, that would be sick. Hit me up. And yeah, enjoy the game. Have a great time with it. Let me know what your choice of weapon is. Peace, homies.